I mean, what I love about what you're doing with this podcast, Byron, is that the big thing is like hang around with smart people. Like that's what really helps me, like whether it was books, podcasts, actually being in the room with people, connecting with people from everywhere, like that exposure, it just suddenly in 10 minutes you can learn something that someone else took 30 years to learn.
I know. That's the thing I love about books. Like this is everything I've learned and however long they're putting it, and I've condensed it probably from a book that was 5 times bigger. They've had to filter it down into something like this, and it's like, if you just read this book, you could save years and years of heartache and having to figure out yourself because these people have done it.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, as we were talking about before, information, we've got so much information around an opportunity where you can skip. That's why, there's a lot of young people who are coming out really successful because I've been learning all the stuff online. They've been skipping like they've consumed a decade of information, back when information had to be consumed by tapes and you had to go buy it. You can just consume it like that. And podcasts, you were listening to this is a great example. All that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. And like that just actually made me think, don't be intimidated as well by, when you mentioned the 30 years of experience, they wanted someone like I was watching this TED talk a while ago, and I'm sorry I can't remember who did it, but he was talking about sort of people being in learning mode or performance mode, and he was saying like after a couple of years people go into performance mode at work. And what I found is actually a lot of the time, working in corporate and working with other people and stuff, people who've been in a job for a long time have just been complacent for a number of years. Not some people. There are people who always are growing and learning. But a lot of people, I would say the majority, are, they're doing other things in their life. They're, focused on their family or whatever it is. And it's kind of like, I go to work, I do my job, I come home, that's it, right?
Yeah.
But if you're kind of like, okay, instead of that, so basically they've got 2 years of experience and then lots of practice. Really, like that's the 2 years of
2 years of experience learning and then just repeating what I've been doing for 10 years.
Exactly. Yeah. So really,
it's not experience.
That's right. It's not experience. It's just performance mode. So if you can learn quickly, and this is why, like for me, I use a scientific method to do this. It's really about going, okay, I'm going to test this out. I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to analyze the results, and then I'm going to improve it. Then I'm going to test it out. And I'm going to see what happens. And
that's experience.
That's right. Yeah. And you can suddenly learn at a much faster pace if you're looking at what's going on and you keep going, okay, I've done this and now I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to do it better and just continually improve. And that's what we should be learning how to do at school.
Yeah, I love that. And it's quite, it's kind of probably, it's refreshing for young people to hear and depressing for older people to hear that their experience is not worth much, but it gives young people a chance to compete against those people, especially if technology is involved, because that's where we can catch up on them with technology. But yeah, it was interesting point, because my dad was just saying he's part of the nurses union, managing a section. He's got people, and if they're happy, that's great. But they've been doing the same thing for 20 years, and it's like, is that 20 years of experience, or is it 3 years of learning how to do it and then 20 years of just rinse and repeat, as you mentioned, go into work, do the same stuff, go home. And it depends. Like if you've got a management role or something that's constantly changing, that would be experience. But a lot of, as you mentioned, corporate stuff could just be, you get in, rinse and repeat, doing stuff for new clients over and over.
And that's kind of, I think, what school especially, maybe not as much uni, has actually kind of almost conditioned us to put up with as well. Sort of like, okay, you're meant to, like, I mean, the rinse repeat thing, right? You go in, you do your subjects, you go home. It doesn't even really matter if the subjects have any relevance to you or not. You're just supposed to do it. And that's what I think. I mean, 85% of people hate the job they're in. Yeah. Like, that's a depressing statistic, you know. And a lot of those people, when we look at them, we'd think, oh, they're really successful because they're higher up or they're doing this or blah, blah, blah. But actually, I think the thing that really matters is that, going back to what we started off saying, you're looking at, well, okay, how does this relate back to me? What's actually important to me? And is this going to help me grow and learn and develop so I can do more of what I want to do? And if the answer is no, then maybe don't do it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.